It's very interesting, Gary. One of those things that Mike just touched on is like load boards, right? You go to a load board, and if you're new and you haven't had your own authority very long, it could be daunting, right? So all of a sudden it's populated with loads, and then you realize, okay, people with companies, operations, owner-operators with their own authority that have a longer history are the ones that end up getting that business, right? Getting those loads. What would be the advice in terms of that approach? Booking loads, building your business out. If you're newer, let's say you're 6 months or so in with your own authority, what needs to happen? Is it a matter of just time and work combined? What would your advice be to those people that are new to their own authority?
When we think about work, let's define it. We were talking before we started about definitions. The partners in business, we've got a lot of technical, we got a lot of what I call almost mechanical things, the numbers, the accounting, but when we come back to it, again, it's that personal, that decision making. What are you going to do with that information? But how do you get a customer? How do you do that? It's still, I think, it's essential. You get on the phone, you make an appointment, you go see them, you give them your business card at every stop and deliver. You say, hey, if you ever need something, call me. And to realize also that far and away, the best freight never sees a broker board.
Yeah.
Never will. They have the relationship. The broker has their list of people. You want to be on that list. When you have success, a successful load, you do the follow-up and you keep and ask questions like, hey, when do you find out about these loads? Well, I find about every Tuesday I find out for like next week. So why aren't you calling them Tuesday morning to find out about next week? And the owners that I talk to often will say, well, I can't plan that far ahead. I go, you can if you learn how to plan ahead.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. That's a big part of partners in business. The whole thing is planning, putting the plan together. Here are the tools. Here's the planning, Todd. And I think what Gary just touched on is it, because as humans, we like our regimented things. We like our routine things. And certainly I know this applies to the trucking industry or any career, really. You want to go through that routine. But when you put in place a new process, so this is going to be a part of my new process. I'm going to schedule this, as Gary says. Yeah, you can do that. Actually, you just got to make it a part of your new process. This has to be a part of pulling all the tools together, but also pulling your schedule together and really budgeting that time, making sure you've got it.
Sure. I mean, Gary has talked about this before, but like aside, I was going to say while he was answering that question that you asked about evaluating load choices in the load board, that he wasn't really answering that question.
Sorry.
Because, but you got around to it. I was about to, but the whole notion in his answer, I think, being that you got to get away from that as your primary source.
Yeah,
right. Your load board should never, like a big broker load board, should not be a primary source for your freight. It can be in some instances if you just want to run from hot market to hot market. That's hard to do, particularly for a new person.
Yeah.
Don't think of it as your primary source, because sometimes, like when you're trying to evaluate a board like that, you're, as you've sort of alluded to, you're in reactive mode.
Right.
You're not planning for anything beyond like now.
Right.
And it's, to sustain a business over the long term like that is difficult. And in terms of budgeting time out, the best thing that you could probably do for yourself as somebody new in the business, even, for people that aren't in this mode already, is, and Gary talks, like, that's how I started to respond. Gary talks about this all the time. Set time aside that you dedicate to customer interaction. You got to make essentially sales calls. You're reaching out, contacting people that you do business with already or that you want to do business with, and you're going to hear no all the time.
Yeah.
Whether that's a broker, a shipper, it doesn't matter. Any of those people can and could be your customers.
Right.
You got to spend time on that for sure. And, over time, I just think the more you chip away at that and set goals, that you define real actions that you're going to take to achieve those goals. That if the goal is to build the customer relationship and ink a contract with somebody, become somebody's go-to owner operator, somebody's go-to carrier, you're going to get there.
Yeah, Gary, he touched on something, because it's not just the budgeting of that time, but also it's how on a regular basis those folks on the other end are hearing from you. So top of mind approach where, oh no, I just heard from a guy, and it could be, and you don't know when that opportunity is going to hit. And then all of a sudden they're in a place where they've got to have somebody, and you're the one who literally and figuratively delivers for them. That gets you on that list.
That's true. I spent 3 years trying to get into a customer when I first became an owner operator, and I would get a load once in a while, and I would make the call often 2-3 times a week to the broker agent, and we'd talk, and they knew I was there. And then one day, someone who had one of the premium loads fell off, had a failure. Hey, I wonder if Gary's available. Got that call. 3 years later, I'm a regular.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, the ones who were doing it told the broker agent, well, if it doesn't pay X, I'm not interested. I won't do anything below that price. And they called and said, hey, this pays like 50 cents less than the premium. Would you still do it?
Right.
You're darn right.
Right.
All of a sudden, I'm not only doing that, I'm doing the premium.
Right.
Because now that person lost their trust.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
That's the thing, you have to be really careful, but it comes down to communication. But the time factor, 3, even 5 years it might take to get to the very best customer. And that's the thing. Think 1,000 days, day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is in all of this, and every day the work has to be put in.